Hey guys, welcome back. Now this is the continuation of our previous video. So in the previous video, we created a development environment where it automatically does live reloading when you do changes to your application code. So this is a very good setup for development. But let's say that you have finished with development and this is your great application and now you want to host it in a cloud provider. We are going to go ahead with AWS. And in AWS, there are multiple ways to host a Docker container. So one of the ways is Elastic Beanstalk. Now, I will go to Elastic Beanstalk. First, I will go to AWS console. I hope you guys have an account. So once you're logged in, you can go to services and search for Elastic Beanstalk. Elastic Beanstalk is a platform as a service offering of AWS where you don't have to do much configuration, but a little bit of configuration and then Elastic Beanstalk handles your applications. Now, this is the main page of Elastic Beanstalk. With Elastic Beanstalk, you can deploy, monitor, and scale application quickly and easily. Now, these are the supporting platform, PHP, Ruby on Rails, and many more, and they include Docker as well. Now, I'll show you. Well, you can simply click Get Started, and when you click Get Started, you have to create an environment or an application environment. So we'll call our application environment as test. In the platform, you will see there are two generic platforms, Docker and multi-container Docker. Well, Docker is basically it will use an EC2 instance to host your Docker applications. And in multi-container Docker, it will use Elastic Container Service from AWS. Behind the scene, it will run your multiple containers at scale. So in our application, it's a single Dockerized application. So we will use generic Docker platform. And I'm not going to create the environment in this console, but I will use CLI instead. The main reason is Elastic Beanstalk has a really cool CLI. It's called Elastic Beanstalk, obviously. Well, you can easily install Elastic Beanstalk or EB CLI. If you go to this page, install EB CLI on whatever the operating system you have. You will see on the left hand side, you have links how to install it in Linux, Windows, Mac OS, etc. I will put this link in the description for you guys. Okay, since I'm using Mac, I will select Mac and there I can install it with brew. So let's do that. First, you need to run brew update just to do an update on brew. It's done. And afterwards, I will simply use brew install AWS EB CLI. Clear the screen, paste it in and hit enter. So it will start downloading the binaries and installing. Okay, now it's installed. Now let's check the version. Brew dash version. Let me see. Yeah, it's 1.7.1. Great. Now at this moment we have two options. We can use the same Docker file to be run in the Elastic Beanstalk and have the application up and running with the Angular development server running in front of it. Well, if you're targeting for a production application, Angular development server is not a good match. Obviously, it has a lot of extra overhead, which is not required for a production grade application. Obviously, it will be quite useful when development, but not suitable for production. So in that case, we have to have another web server set up in front of that, quite a lightweight one. And one of the most popular lightweight web server is called Nginx. Now, let's go to Docker Hub. Let me go to Docker Hub. This is the account and I have signed in as well. Now, on the top bar, you will see there's a menu point called Explore. Let's select that. When you click Explore, it will list down all the repositories that is available in Docker Hub. Now on top, it has Nginx. So it has so many stars and it has so many pulls as well. So let's click on this, and this is the official build of Nginx, and it has what Nginx is, some description about it, and you will see how to use this image, and under that hosting some simple static content. Now, if you can remember the very first video of this channel, we hosted an Angular application on S3 bucket. With S3 bucket, we have enabled static web hosting, and with that, S3 is able to serve the static files that is inside the build directory. If you only have an static web application, S3 web hosting is the ideal way because it's quite serverless and it's quite scalable. But if you have an application like a containerized application with multiple other containers like a database, like a cache server, etc., or application server, so in that type of a setup where you need to have multiple containers, then in order to serve your application, this Nginx would be quite ideal. So that's what we are going to do. So let's use Nginx to host our simple static HTML files. Let's go back to our application here. Now, I will just open up the terminal and let me stop the server or the Docker Compose. It's stopped. You can stop the server by typing docker-compose down. All right, it's now stopped. Now, if I go to package.json file here, you will see we have a build command that is provided by Angular. So if you run ng build, it will create a folder. Let's see. I'm going to type ng build, or you can of course type npm run build as well. This command will create a folder called dist, and it will compile this application into HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Web browsers can only read HTML and JavaScript and CSS. So no matter whatever the TypeScript that we have, with this build command, it will convert all these files into JS, HTML, etc. Now the build is complete. You will see it has created a folder called dist, and under that dist folder you have my app folder. Under that you have HTML and JavaScript. Okay, so now this is what we are going to do. We are going to use Nginx to serve this static content. So how are we going to do that? Because if we look at our Docker file right now, the image that is built from this Docker file can only run npm run start. So what does this npm run start does is basically it will start the development server here. But we don't want to use development server. So this is the place where we are going to use multi-step Docker file. So our Docker file will contain multiple steps. So in the first step, we will build our application, have our HTML and CSS and static files inside a folder. And in the next step, we will start an Nginx server and serve that particular directory from Nginx. So this is how we are going to do that. Okay, I'm going to modify this Docker file itself. So the way that we can define a stage is using another key called as. So we can say from node alpine, we will name this step as build. Okay, and the work directory is same, and we will have the package.json npm install, and we'll copy in all the context into the container. Now we don't need to expose 4200 because our idea is only to build this directory. So in order to build that, we of course have to install the dependencies, right? So that's why we need to have all these previous steps. And here, instead of a command cmd command, we need to have a run command. Instead of npm run start, we will replace it with npm run build, which will internally called ng build, and that will create a dist folder, and inside that we will have my app. So that's the main output from our first step, the build step. Okay, let's now create another step. So how can we create another step? We'll use another base image. So this time I'm going to use Nginx, and then we are going to expose port 80 in the Nginx container because Nginx is listening upon port 80. Now we need to copy the files from this stage into the new stage. So how can we do that? We'll use copy space and we use from stage. This is the place where we define the stage name. We called our stage name as build. Okay, so copy it from this particular stage. So what do we need to copy? We need to copy the content in the build directory or in the dist directory of that container. Now our work directory of the previous stage is /app. So as you can see in our local machine, as it has created the dist directory on the root folder, we can safely assume that it will also create a dist folder inside the app folder. So where is our static files located? It's located inside app/dist, right? Let's open this up. So there's another folder called my app, and we'll refer it my app. Okay, inside that my app we'll find all the static content. So what do we need to do? So we have copied these files into Nginx folder. There's a particular folder we need to copy this static content into. We can easily find it in the official documentation. Now let me go to Nginx repository, and in the Nginx repository, if you scroll down a little bit, you will see the location that we need to copy those files in the Nginx. It says copy whatever the static HTML file directory into this particular folder in the Nginx container. And let me just copy in this location, and I will go into my editor and I will paste it here. Great. So at this point, this is our first stage. In the build stage, it will build our application and it will put the static content inside /app/dist folder like it has done in our local machine. And in the second stage, where we have an Nginx base image, it will copy those content from the app/dist/my-app into the Nginx container, this particular directory. Now, when we run this Docker file, it should serve the content from the Nginx. Now let's try it locally. Now I will open up and console. Let me clear the screen. And now let's try to build our Docker image from this Docker file. Docker build dot period. So it will look at the Docker file and it will start running through the instructions. Let's see. Okay, now it has started building the Docker file. So as you can see, step 1 of 9 from node Alpine as the first stage, build stage. So it is copying the files. And now it is building it. And now at stage 6, it is running npm run build, which is this command. So build is complete. Now it started the 7th stage, which is from Nginx. So from Nginx, it will check whether the Nginx image is available. In locally, it's not available, so it's downloading it from the Docker Hub. And once it is downloaded, it will copy the build files, these build files from the app directory into this folder in the Nginx. Okay, now it is successfully built. We can actually use this image to run the Nginx container. Let's run it. Let me first copy the image ID and I will clear the screen. Let's run docker run, and we have a port mapping to do. So in Nginx, it will start it inside port 80 in the container. So we'll map our port 80 in the local machine to the internal port 80 in the Nginx container, and we'll copy in the image ID. So that should be it, and I will hit enter. Let's see if it runs. Well, it doesn't show anything, but we'll go to localhost 80 and see if the application is running. Localhost colon 80. Of course, we don't have to specify 80 if it is 80. Yes, as you can see, now our application is running with Nginx. So Nginx is serving our application. Great. Now at this point, this is a production ready application because Nginx is one of the lightweight web servers. You can find it in the internet. So this is the setup that we are going to host it in Elastic Beanstalk. Now that is running on locally, we can safely assume it will run on Elastic Beanstalk as well. Alright, so let's start deploying it to Elastic Beanstalk. Let me go back to my command editor and I will stop the Nginx container. Alright, so now we are going to use Elastic Beanstalk to create an environment and upload the files, so that Elastic Beanstalk will use the Docker file to spin up the container and serve the Angular application. So let's try to use Elastic Beanstalk. Let me check the version again. So I have 3.14.3. Okay, good. And make sure that you have set up your AWS credential. If not, you can use the AWS CLI, AWS configure, and press enter. Then you will be asked to enter your IAM user access ID and secret access ID. Add that and your AWS configuration will be complete. Make sure that is done, and afterwards let's use Elastic Beanstalk EB to initialize our project. Let's hit EB init and it will ask multiple questions. So first it asks us to select a region. So we'll select US East 1. So it is number 1. I will add number 1 here and hit enter. Then it will ask a name for your application. Well, default name is my app, of course. We'll have that as default one. So the application is created. Now it says it appears you are using Docker. Is that correct? Because it has seen this file. Of course it's correct. Let's say why. Then it will prompt us the Docker platform versions. We'll use the latest one. Okay, I will select 1 and hit enter. And now it says whether or not we want to use code commit. Well, we don't need to use code commit at this point. We'll say no. And do I want to set up SSH to your instance? Because behind the scene it will create an EC2 instance to run these Docker containers. You can press yes if you want to log into your instance, but for this tutorial I will say no. Okay, that's it. So it has initialized the configurations. Well, now that is initialized, we can create an environment and upload our files into it. Now, one small thing that we need to remember, when you're creating an environment, Elastic Beanstalk will not push the files that is not committed. For example, if I just say git status, you will see the Docker file and Docker Compose files, they are not committed. So let's commit them first. This is a caveat, just remember to do this. I will just type docker add -a. I will add all these things and I will commit them with a commit message, committing, if I can spell it, committing Docker files. Okay. So make sure to commit that, otherwise when you are creating the Elastic Beanstalk environment, it will not push. So the Docker file will not be pushed. Okay. And now let's use Elastic Beanstalk EB and create a new environment and we'll call it my app. So at this point, it will upload the files into S3. So now Elastic Beanstalk is creating an environment, my app, and it will upload all the files to S3 bucket, and through that S3 bucket, it will create the environment. So as you can see, the environment creating is starting, and it is getting the files from the S3 bucket that it has previously uploaded, and it will create a load balancer because Elastic Beanstalk uses a load balancer in front of it. And security group, auto scaling group, everything will be configured automatically for you. So that's why Elastic Beanstalk is quite easy to use. It's basically a platform as a service offering from AWS. Yeah, you don't have to do much of configuration. So let's wait until this is completed. Okay, now it says successfully launched the environment My App. Now it has packaged the application and uploaded it to Elastic Beanstalk. Now if you visit the AWS console, you should be able to see your application. Let's go to AWS console and I will go to Elastic Beanstalk, and we should see our new environment and also our new application. As you can see, it's quite green. So this is our My App environment, and let's click that. Yes, it has a big green tick mark. And if you want to visit your application, there's a URL. Let me just right click and open it a new link. Yeah. So now our application is up and running, and this is a production ready application. Great. So if you want to do modifications and re-upload your content, you can use the command EB deploy. So that can be used to push changes to your application. So at this moment, our application is up and running on Elastic Beanstalk. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.